Hey, my name is Sean.
This is Alex.
You're listening to another episode of Coast to Kings Radio. In today's episode, we're continuing back on our Asia BS, and now we're actually leaving the mainland for the first time in 7 whole China episodes. I guess if you listen to last week's episode, we got to give you a little break with Efteling, and then we also did a bonus episode about Tiana's Bio Adventure, Penguin Trek, and
Phoenix Rising,
which Alex came up with the beautiful title for the episode. Tiana's Penguin Rising. Thank you very much. No pun intended on that one.
Tiana's Penguin.
God, well, really, the places my mind went.
Your Tiana's Phoenix Trek was what you came up with
PG.
too. It was a bit more sophisticated. I don't know why you're imparting a non-PG. I don't really want to know where your brain is
I was just thinking about Tiana's Penguin Rising. Okay?
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, so if you listen to those previous episodes, you know we eventually ended up in Hong Kong for pretty much half a day, which just wouldn't be the first nor the last time that we're going to Hong Kong Disneyland for like half a day, because realistically I feel like it's all you need because it's never busy. However, before we get to that, let's do a quick shout out to S5E97 on Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much for your review. If anyone listening, if you leave us a 5-star review, we do really appreciate you and we love you, and you get a little shout out here on Coast Kings Radio. So thank you for that. And this episode, we're also incorporating some of our Instagram stories. So we had a couple of replies that stood out to us on our Instagram story that we posted about Hong Kong Disneyland. So we'll be kind of weaving those in throughout the episode. But yeah, long story short, we were in Shanghai. We're going to go back through Shanghai to San Francisco. And then suddenly we realized that there was more business class seats open in Hong Kong. And we're like, you know what?
Standby.
So for us, the game is the most possible seats home, but also the best possible seats home. So Hong Kong looked like strangely good. So we decided, you know what, let's buy airfare on Cathay Pacific and let's fly on down to Hong Kong. And Alex's family lives there. And we were going to go see Caitlin, Alex's cousin, and I guess in a way kind of my cousin. Anyway, and so we went to go see her and her brand new baby. Is that how you say brand new baby?
Yeah.
Her new birth child.
The baby. The new baby.
And so that was honestly kind of worked out perfect. So we all met up with the little baby at Hong Kong Disney, because what else are you going to do on a 12-hour Hong Kong layover? Maybe a little less, like 10-hour Hong Kong layover. Yeah. And so we went to Hong Kong, and it was all really cute, and it rained a little bit, but, it wasn't terrible.
Yeah.
So we had a good time, and we're just going to kind of talk about our day at Hong Kong Disney and kind of just go around the park a little bit. We haven't talked about this park on the podcast, I think, ever, besides mentioning it, or
it probably
discussing it in like a listicle
of like all Disney parks. And
because we did an episode.
We've definitely talked about some of the rides, some of the more unique rides at this park. I know Mystic Manor has come up a lot. I think Mystic Manor is kind of like the focal point of this park for a lot of people, whether you've been there or not. Even for people who haven't been, they know that Mystic Manor is like a major dark ride experience that is just so lovable and so special and like continues to age really well. So once we got to Disneyland, actually the first thing we did was we got a snack.
Yeah, we were starving.
Yeah, Caitlin was feeding the baby. We were just like
feeding
ourselves.
Slow,
so we were like, we'll eat too. If the baby's eating, we're gonna eat. So we got the signature Cookie Ann waffle sandwich. And so Cookie Ann is one of Duffy and Shelley May's friends, and she's a baker. And she lives in Hong Kong Disney, like canonically, that's where she's from. So the Duffy Bear stuff is really big in Hong Kong Disney. It was like the second park after the Tokyo Disney Resort for the stuff to really catch on. So it's been big in Hong Kong for a while, and now they've got Cookie Ann, who lives there and is like the ambassador, and she has her own signature dish, and it was actually it was definitely different, but it was like 2 warm, like Belgian style waffles with a cotton candy flavored marshmallow patty in the center.
It was good for like when you're like craving a little snack and something sweet.
Fascinating.
I don't know if I would have it again, but it was just different.
Really something else. Like I liked it a lot. The packaging was cute. Like
it was kind of
got a great picture of you holding it. Kind of like, what is this?
I will say though, coming back to Hong Kong Disney for the first time since 2018, it's been a good 5.5 years since we went. And in my head, it had a different feel. And I'm saying that because we go to a lot of Disney parks, and we go to Disney parks a lot. And I was craving Hong Kong Disney because that's the park I hadn't been to the longest. Literally, that is the park I hadn't been to the longest since I've done all the parks again in between. So one thing for me was that I kind of forgot how sterile it feels. Does that sound mean? It just doesn't necessarily
have... It feels
a
little flat.
It is a little flat.
Places.
Like, I feel like, maybe because we're so used to Paris. Paris is so... But even the brickwork, it makes such a difference. I feel like it's just a little bit flat and sterile.
It feels budgetary in places. Really, it's all the old stuff. But
the castle now is so nicely... It pops now. Because they redid the castle, and like now with me feeling like Main Street's a little bit sterile, at least now the castle really shows. Last time we were there, the castle was under construction.
This is the first time I've been to Hong Kong Disney where the castle was actually not under construction.
And I think they did an amazing job. It's such a unique castle. I feel like it really works with the tropical vibe of Hong Kong. Because Hong Kong is in the mountains and it can get brutally hot and sunny, even though it was overcast for our entire visit. But I think it really works in like the light aqua blue with the sand tones. It is a completely different feel than any of the other castles, in my opinion. And it still pays homage to the original castle, which is a copy of Disneyland's. And that's where my first shout-out comes in, because Theme Park Review replied to our little story. And they said that they think Disneyland Anaheim should also get the Hong Kong Disneyland castle treatment. And even though, obviously, everyone's going to be like, well, no, like the OG is the OG, the original needs to not be touched. But the original is very nicely framed in the new castle. You can definitely tell the old one's in there.
Anything.
They just added to the castle.
She got that wagon.
So I think I agree with...
She got a BBL.
I think I agree with Theme Park Review.
BBL.
I think that she should get a treatment.
Yeah, I think it would be...
In Anaheim.
People just need to warm up to the... Now, I feel like now that Hong Kong has done it, maybe people would have warmed up to the idea. Because now you can see it in person and see how awesome it is. And I hope that if people go to Hong Kong Disneyland... People, Disneyland people, Anaheim people go to Hong Kong Disneyland and see it in person. I hope that they decide that they would want that for themselves, just based on like how nice it looks in person. But yeah, I guess to the point of the feeling like the park just feels smaller than I remember and a little more sterile. And I think part of it is because the park, everything that opened with the park in 2005. Was very budgetary looking and kind of safe looking.
Yeah, I can't believe the way the park opened. I mean, that was the lamest Disney opening ever.
And now, everything that they've added since, like, there's just a big difference between the old Disneyland, like Main Street USA and Tomorrowland and Fantasyland, and the Marvel attractions, Frozen, Grizzly Gulch, Mystic Manor, and the Toy Story Land. Like, there's a big difference.
But yeah, I mean, the park now, I feel like, has such a distinct... Hong Kong has a very distinct lineup, and of course that's because the government, right, like kind of...
Yeah, the government
the agreement is to have a certain amount of unique attractions, and a certain amount of the subsidizing goes into that.
They've got like 5 rides that are like totally unique to the park.
And that is what's so nice about it, but they're kind of on the outskirts of the park. Like, you really can feel the center, the core of the park, in my opinion.
It's just
feels
funny
like
how
kind of like a sterile
tiny it
Disneyland.
is. Like, every Disney park has like bathrooms that are immediately to the right of the castle. Like, when you're walking down Main Street, and right before Main Street ends and you enter the hub, there's always bathrooms to the right. And like, Hong Kong Disney is so small that like the bathrooms to the right in Main Street are also the Tomorrowland bathrooms, like the main Tomorrowland restaurant bathrooms.
It's all one.
Like, you just like enter the side of this Tomorrowland cafe.
I will say, in a way, it feels cozy.
It's so quaint.
As far, because that's like the sheer opposite of Shanghai Disney, which we just did Shanghai Disney a few days prior, which we love. Shanghai Disney, I think, is our second favorite Disney park.
Yeah.
And for Shanghai Disney, like, it's so massive. Everything is a long walk. You walk from Pirates to Soarin', it's right next to each other, but it's really kind of far. Tron to Toy Story Land, they're right next to each other, but it feels like you're traveling, like you're distancing. That is not the case in Hong Kong Disney. Hong Kong Disney, even though there's very distinct neighborhoods, and you've got your little Grizzly Gulch, and you've got your Mystic Manor area, there is, in a way, a pleasantness of it being cozy and small and close to each other, which it's almost like Anaheim. I feel like this is like the sister to Anaheim in that regard. We always call Paris and Shanghai their sisters, because the attention to
And then
landscaping
obviously
and
Tokyo
detailing.
And Orlando are siblings.
Tokyo, Magic Kingdom and Tokyo Disneyland are siblings, but I think Hong Kong and Anaheim are such siblings. They don't have to, I just made that realization,
totally
I suppose. Yeah.
Totally. And not just because of the castle, but because of the quaintness and coziness, the scope of the two castle parks, the OG Anaheim Park and the Hong Kong Park. The scope was always just inherently smaller for these parks. And Hong Kong Disneyland, I still love the park. I still think it's great. It's just funny how this time it almost felt like I was in somebody's replica of Disneyland, a cute backyard Disneyland version. But
oh, totally.
It was I felt like we were at somebody's garden party at a very elaborate Disneyland
and I think that's
themed
also
backyard.
because they incorporated nature way more than Anaheim.
Yeah.
Right? So even their Tomorrowland, because it was the last one of the traditional look, I would say.
Yeah.
Had the trees in it and stuff, and of course it's a jungle lush environment. I totally agree with that statement. Yeah.
But yeah, I think the park has a bright future. Their Frozen area was a huge success, and so they're continuing to add. They're going to continue growing the park, and I think eventually they'll reach a point where not only have they expanded to a size class that's more comparable to the other castle parks, but also the stuff that's been there, the existing stuff that may have been underfunded in the beginning, will have received some upgrades, kind of like the castle. I would love to see in the same way that they upgraded the castle here, I would love to see other areas of the park.
I think Tomorrowland. Oh my
Tomorrowland
God.
is not long for this world. It's already
and maybe some love for Main Street and the
Yeah.
entrance. Maybe a little bit more color.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's just because it was a gray overcasty day and it's the jungle. But
Main Street feels small. The buildings are all one story.
yeah,
Whereas,
you know what? That was
all the other main streets that are 2 stories. Or
yeah,
3.
that's totally right. I think I didn't make that realization at all until we went again this visit.
I was is it me, or does it all seem physically not just flat in the figurative sense, but
there's just
literally
height or
flat.
depth. Yeah,
Everything. It's almost like if you stood up on your tippy toes, you could see from one side of the park to the other.
But I will say, I love this park. I don't think there's a single Disney park I don't love except for Magic Kingdom. But
Poor Magic Kingdom.
For Magic Kingdom.
Well, she deserves it.
But I do think that some of the color, maybe it's the colors they chose, because you have the same problem with Small World there, where they went with pastel blue and pink and white, and it just looks. I feel like there's no inviting warmth. I don't know. I really crave some of the other aesthetics that they've gone with other parks. But that's just nitpicking here. I think overall still a really pleasant park, and of course we came for the brand new area, which is the Frozen
area is a
Frozen
knockout.
Land. Is that what it's called? Lily Frozen Land,
Frozen
right?
Land.
Frozen World,
yeah,
Frozen World?
Arendelle World of Frozen.
There you go, that one. And that was actually a
What
pleasant surprise.
What a great area.
On literally all accounts.
It's perfect.
So we actually first rode the coaster because that is completely new to us, because the Frozen Ever After ride is a modernized version of the one at Epcot. However, we just rode the Oaken sliding sled first, which just starts off with the animatronic of Olaf riding Sven.
With a carrot on a fishing pole.
Because he is powering
the lift hill
for the sleds to go down the hill.
Cute. Yeah.
And it is really just a glorified big Vekoma kiddie coaster with really pretty trains.
Really excellent terrain.
But you know what?
Yeah.
I love the layout. If you do good rock work around a roller coaster, no matter how big it is, it looks spectacular. And the force perspective on this is Disney's all-time
really
best.
Impressive, yeah.
Because I think everyone I've heard said, the area is this small, the ride is this small. But from the pictures, it looks massive.
It blends in so nicely with the
God.
mountains in the background.
That is so true.
Unbelievable.
So go to thecoasterkings.com whenever you get a chance and look at some of the photos we're going to be posting there, and maybe a video. And you can really see that it blends in so well. It almost feels like it was designed for this park. 100%. And the queue is cute. Decent amount of things to look at. We waited maybe 25 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will say a shout out to Metallic Coaster. They commented on our story that they think Sliding Sleighs is perfectly fine and fun. And I think this is more of a reference to the fact that it's got a lot of criticism for being very short. It is not long. Yes, that is correct. However, it just does what it needs to do. It is
it's a kiddie coaster.
Perfect family kiddie coaster.
And
And it's all about the theming in the queue and the overall story and the aesthetic. And I think it's very cute. And for the target audience, it is plenty of length.
It's doing exactly what it was advertised to do.
Yeah, and I think it's a great little addition. And it doesn't take a lot of space.
A longer ride. I mean, you've got Space Mountain and you've got Grizzly.
Grizzly Gulch. I mean, that's a long
Grizzly
ride.
is massive. So,
massive ride.
They have all of the roller coasters are different, like varying size classes. So this was like really exactly the coaster that they needed because they already had, the RC Racer half-pipe coaster, they had Space Mountain, and they had Grizzly. This was the coaster that this park needed. And I honestly, part of me wishes that Disneyland Paris was still getting it. Because I think, I think Disney, Adventure World?
Adventure World, yeah.
I feel like Disney Adventure World. I kind of wish they were
getting it. It's not that big.
I kind of wish they were getting it too, just because I feel like that park could use a proper kiddie coaster. Really, the whole resort doesn't even have like a true standard kiddie coaster. They just have a powered coaster. But I mean, whatever's clever. Like Paris knows what they need. Their Disneyland Paris is really in tune with like their needs and their not needs. So like if they've decided that they only need like the left half of this, like if looking at the Frozen area, you can see exactly like where Disneyland Paris is going to be just the left half of it, I think. And where you like cross the bridge over the fjord into the more rural side of the area that has the kiddie coaster is the part that like Disneyland Paris cut from their version of it.
I think for them it's more centered. I think because the way it's on the lake, you have the water in front of it.
Yeah.
And you have the little house you can stand in and look over the water. Like I think their water is almost going to be in front of this Frozen ride. And then, like, Frozen Ride and Arendelle in the background. I think it's a bit of a different approach.
They had a good reason for not doing the kiddie coaster, I think, because they're probably going to put a bigger ride on that side of it and use that space. Whereas with Hong Kong, they only had so much space to work with between where they were putting the Frozen Ride and where Small World is. So, the kiddie coaster fits really nicely, like, geographically into that little slot. And then the Frozen Ride's great. It was a perfect, like, physical improvement of Orlando's Frozen Ride. The hardware is better. The software is better. Everything about it is just like a general improvement. It has a great drop now. Like a really good drop. So you see what I'm saying?
The water is alongside the walkway. Like it is parallel to the walkway of the park. And then Arendelle is... So it's a completely different shape.
Basically the way that they're framing Frozen Land for Paris doesn't...
It has a different layout.
It doesn't accommodate the kiddie coaster as well as Hong Kong's setup does.
Yeah, no, it really doesn't.
So, like, it's fine. Like, it'll be great either way. But yeah, I think they just did a fabulous job with this area overall, and I really love the
I want
changes.
to talk a little bit about the dark ride, I guess.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so this is, of course... I don't want to call it a clone because it's not a clone, but it is a heavily inspired, a similar attraction to Frozen Ever After at Epcot. It uses a similar ride layout, except for, of course, stations are optimized, boats are bigger, scenes are bigger. There's a couple of added animatronics, a couple added scenes and moments, and effects are just like exemplified. Animatronics are vastly improved, and the biggest animatronic improvement I'm talking about is the fact that their faces blend in. They don't look like projections as much anymore, which is really nice. And then the drop is what we really must discuss because the drop here is spectacular. First of all, it's very steep.
It's so steep.
You're like, oh, why are we wearing? Aren't there like restraints?
I was like looking at there's like lap bars.
First you're like, where is the lap bar?
What is
this thing is like practically a baby shoe.
Yeah.
But then you go down the drop, which is in the opposite direction, by the way.
You come onto it from like the right side and then get positioned into it.
And like a drop underneath the scene you're riding prior.
And it's like it's only possible for them to have shaped the drop this way because it's so steep.
And it has to clear underneath
itself.
And then at the bottom of the drop there's a little airtime hill, and it is a snappy little airtime hill. Like it is like a little bump that really gets you up and then splashes. And I think it is it's like, wow, if you really do this ride from the ground up, even though it's so heavily inspired, it really is a nice ride. Like it doesn't feel like an overlay, like it doesn't froze like an Epcot. It doesn't feel old. It doesn't feel kind of, I don't know, makeshift in a way. Like it really feels like it is a ride that was designed to be this way, even though it follows the same sequence of events.
Deliberate. Yeah, even though it's based on a reskin of another ride, it does not feel like it.
We're going back to Hong Kong Disney next month, or almost next month, like a month and a half. And catch me on that ride again.
Yeah, let's go ride it again.
I really liked it. I cannot wait to ride again, and I definitely 100% will. So that is that, and I think the area is very pretty. Force perspective again is what really is safe in this area. It is gorgeous looking. But it's very compact. It's very small. Has a lot going on. But I think it all works very well, and it is a great addition. As yet another one of those neighborhoods. They did a neighborhood and the world building very well there because it doesn't bleed, and Toy Story doesn't bleed, and Mystic Manor doesn't bleed, and Grizzly Ghost doesn't bleed.
I don't know
but
how
they're all
they
back to
managed
back to back.
We didn't even go to Toy Story Land.
It is so hidden,
and
it's like having a tall coaster
completely invisible. Yeah, I don't know how it's not visible. Because, like, Shanghai Disney's is visible from the walkways. Like, when you're queuing for Tron and, like, you can see RC Racer there. Maybe I'm just not paying attention. But, like, I forgot the Toy Story area was, like, even there. Even at Hong Kong. Not that there's anything wrong with it. Those areas are great. It's just, actually, it's funny. I just realized that, like, we both our Shanghai Disney Day and our Hong Kong Disney Day, we did everything in both of those respective parks, like every area and stuff, except we skipped Toy Story in both of those parks.
Yeah, that's fine.
Priorities. Our next priority after riding the new Frozen rides, of course, was Mystic Manor, which remains a best-in-class trackless dark ride experience. That is this park's answer to the Haunted Mansion. And it's also part of the
Which is
larger...
funny. Didn't we eat first at the Royal Banquet, and then we did Grizzly Gulch, and then we did...
Maybe we did.
We did. It doesn't really matter, but...
No, we ate later. I think we ate later. We had our little pasta and stuff.
Yeah, I thought it was after Frozen. Maybe...
Was it that? Well, because we had just stopped for... We just had our cookie and waffle.
When did I fall on the kid?
That was later. That was right before. We were walking to Tomorrowland.
To Iron Man, right? Yeah, okay. That was very traumatic.
Are you going to provide the listeners with some context as to what you just said?
I will.
Later?
I will later.
Okay.
Maybe I should do it now.
Well, do it now, because now it sounds right. You fell on a kid.
I fell on a kid. I ruined a day, and it wasn't even my own day. Actually, I ruined my own day, too. But
you were fine.
So what happened was... In 2018, September to be precise, there was an incredible popcorn flavor that Alex taunted just the other day as his favorite popcorn ever. Mm-hmm. And that was the Buffalo Wing popcorn flavor. And they had this in Grizzly Gulch back in 2018, and it was absolutely delicious. Like, it was great. I didn't even like popcorn, and that was so good. And so we were on a quest to find, because it was no longer in Grizzly Gulch. So we were on the quest to find the popcorn. And we're walking from Grizzly Gulch towards the main hub, and we're going to Iron Man Experience, which we'll talk about those things in a little bit. And we're just walking, and I smell popcorn. I'm like, oh, wait, is this the popcorn that I'm looking for? Like, is this where they located to in the main square? So I look over, and I am trying to read the long Mandarin and then English popcorn descriptions of which popcorns are sold at this location. And as I do that, I am on an elevated piece of sidewalk, right at the hub. And I am distracted by the popcorn because I'm trying to read it all, and I'm trying to figure out if it has my popcorn. And as I do that, I step, but I don't realize that I'm stepping down into the where the parade floats are. And so I fall backwards in a most dramatic motion. And I look at this kid that I see on a little bike. You know, one of those push-around bikes. It's kind of like a stroller.
It's sort of like a stroller bike, yeah.
And the kid's looking at me, and then I face his mom. And this is like I was falling for 30 seconds, but it felt like that.
You kept trying to save yourself. Like, you kept trying to fix it.
It was a painful endeavor. And so I look at this child, and I look at the mom, and the mom's looking at me in all disappointment. The child's looking at me in fear. And I just fall on the kid. It's uncomfortable, but the kid's eating a hot dog. And this is making the whole situation worse, because the kid crying, it's not my first time, I can handle it. But the kid's eating a hot dog, and he's so excited about the hot dog. And then I'm covered in hot dog. I'm covered in mustard and ketchup. And all over the place, and these cast members come running over.
The hot dog is smashed.
The
hot cast members are running over,
and they're like, "Oh my god, you need first aid! You need first aid!" I'm like, "First aid? I just need to like be cleaned up." So they're grabbing all these like little towels, which is really sweet. But I'm trying to go to the parents, and the kid's hysterically crying at this point, like hysterically crying. Life is ruined. He is having the worst Disney day, and he's like really upset.
And the parents are like Sean's like trying to buy a new hot dog. And
I'm trying to buy him a new hot dog.
And the parents are like, "No, it's fine. He'll eat it."
But then I didn't want to eat the hot dog I fell into. Like, I saw the mustard on my tattoo. Like, this kid, the mustard had touched me. I touched everything, and it was really unfortunate. But I was deeply ashamed of my existence because I was looking at the fucking popcorn sign. I didn't even like popcorn. And now I fell on this kid and ruined his day, and parents are mad. And the customer wants to get me to the first aid stand. Like, it was all this very not cute.
It was a lot of attention for you.
I know, and I really wanted to get out of there as soon as possible. So that's what happened, and it left a mark on me.
Look, here's the two frozen areas. Here's Hong Kong's, and here's Paris's.
I understand. It's not how the concept
It is going to be pretty similar, except that they just didn't do
You know why they didn't do it?
coaster
Because
side.
the frozen waterway is also where all
Like parade floats
all
and
those
stuff,
boats and stuff
yeah.
are going to go through. That's why.
But you can see the similarities and how like this building will be here and here. But yeah.
Anyway, sidetracked. But yeah, that was a different story. But let's talk about Mystic Manor. Alexandre.
Basically, so I mean, of all of the rides in this park, like Mystic Manor is the one we've already talked about the most, and I think by now everybody knows. Like, if you know, you know. Like Mystic Manor is top tier. Before Disney World unleashed like their trio of trackless dark rides in Anaheim with their trio of trackless ride attractions, like Mystic Manor was so coveted and adored for being like a trackless dark ride in a climate of dark rides where like it was still like a very new and modern and different kind of technology, and the application of it was more compelling, I think, for a lot of people than like Pooh's Honey Hunt at Tokyo Disney, for example. But it's a great ride, holds up really well. In this era, is the common era of the trackless dark ride being more prevalent. Fondly, I am reminded of Symbolica. Or really the other way around. The first time I rode Symbolica, I felt like this feels like Mystic Manor, and vice versa. And that's really the highest compliment I can pay. They both have like a sort of whimsical elegance to them. That's really how I would describe Efteling. Is like it's quirky and fanciful, but it's opulent too. Like it's beautiful. It's sophisticated in its own way, and I feel like Mystic Manor is that way too. But yeah, great ride that holds up really well. Has lots of fun references to other Disney rides, particularly Haunted Mansion. And then we rode Big Grizzly Runaway Mine Cars, which I'm always struggling to decide if I like it better than Expedition Everest. Considering they're the only two rides in that product line, it's a very specific Disney Mine Train product line, and those are the only two coasters in it. For the two rides basically being like the only two siblings they've got, the rides are very different.
Oh, very different.
They both accomplish different things because like Everest is tall for a Disney
the
coaster,
only real,
and it's fast for a coaster.
The only real thing I
Disney
feel
coaster.
like is the same between the two is just the ride vehicles,
The rolling stock,
because the rides fill such different gaps. Like Alex hinted at, like Everest is so big, and it's really meant to be quite a stark difference to whatever anything else Disney World has to offer, including Big Thunder Mountain.
yeah.
But here, it's the Big Thunder Mountain. It is themed to the Wild Wild West. It is themed to mining. It's themed to TNT explosions.
Yeah.
And then they incorporate the whole, a cute bear theme. And then, it does a long ride. It has backwards motion, launch, drops, everything you want.
The rides
it is a good,
three sequences
good ride.
of events.
Yeah, it is spectacular. I fell in love with it even more this time.
I loved it.
And I loved it the first time, but now, I cannot wait to session it in next month.
I feel
hopefully.
like we rode Everest today, or we attempted to. We got in line for Everest, and then the thunderstorms came.
Yeah.
But we were commenting on the queue and how beautiful the queue is.
And it's one of the best queues in the world.
Grizzly Runaway Mine Cars. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that one.
Grizzly Mine Cars does not have the queue or the presence that Everest has. Because Everest really goes. But that's Animal Kingdom. They really go for photorealism. They go for like complete authenticity. Whereas Grizzly Gulch in Hong Kong Disney is
like
a cartoon-sized.
Yeah, it's
a Chip and Dale
cartoon bears launching
version of Gold Rush, California. So they have a definitely different aesthetic, and in a way, like it's easy to say that Grizzly Mine Cars is the more polished of the two, but that's also kind of the point because like nothing about Animal Kingdom is supposed to be polished; it's supposed to be rustic.
Yeah.
So saying that Grizzly is like the more polished of the two isn't really like hitting the point home. I will say that like there's aspects of Grizzly. Grizzly feels like it is functioning exactly the way that it's supposed to. It's perfect. It's functional. There's stuff about Everest, obviously, to say nothing of the Yeti and like our Disco Yeti situation. It would be great if we had a focal point animatronic on Everest that performed as function intends. But there's other stuff too, like the backwards parts, like the track switching sequences on Everest feel very clunky these days. Now in this era of like Hagrid style rapid track switching.
Yeah, I guess they built a show scene for it. So
the technology has changed a lot, and it's the second track switch on Everest where you're watching the shadow of the abominable snowman or the Yeti or whatever is like way better. But that first one where you're parked at the edge of the mountain and everybody's launched their hair ties and garbage and chewing gum into the rocks around you. And you're just sitting there kind of like waiting for something to happen and kind of wondering like, what's happening? Versus like climbing the lift hill on Big Grizzly and then the cable snaps and you run down the back of it. I mean, that's just such clever storytelling. It's such a great marriage of like roller coaster technology and a story that's being told. So there's just stuff like Everest was of course amazing and accomplished some really cool things for its day. But I feel like Grizzly is aging better. It's aging more gracefully, and it's exactly the ride that it's always been, and is doing exactly everything that it was supposed to do from day one. And to me, it still feels very clever and very modern.
Oh, 100%.
Like, very advanced in a way where Everest is starting to feel outdated in some ways.
To me, again, it really is like a complete modern version of a Big Thunder Mountain. If I see any theme park opening with a Big Thunder Mountain, and it's a Disney, like a new Disney gate.
Yeah. Like if Shanghai Disney ever did a second
what I would
gate
expect
with
from a
Big Thunder Mountain type ride, you could expect using that ride system and doing some forward-backwards stuff.
The only thing that I didn't like about our experience, particularly at this trip, was that I think I ran like 3 trains, which seems fine, but we actually had to wait in line. And then I guess I could run like 5 trains easily. We got to the point where there was a good window where there was no train to unload or load, and you're just waiting for the trains to come back, and it felt strangely regional.
This ride has such high capacity that like
they
simply cannot run.
But then we were
too many
wait
trains.
Lines. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
But it's like it's not sustainable. They run out of people to fill the trains so quickly if they go from 3 trains to 4 trains on a quiet day.
But it's always a quiet day.
But yeah, it's Hong Kong Disney, so it's always quiet.
But yeah, it's always a good ride.
Yeah,
and then
just a wonderful ride again. I can't wait to ride it again in September.
So then I practically heard a child.
Yeah, and then the child fall experience happened.
And then Mustard, I can still see
Mustard
the image
Gate.
in front of me. Mustard
We
Gate.
also enjoyed. We didn't ride anything in Adventureland. This is now the second time Sean has been to Hong Kong Disneyland and has escaped.
Not actually ridden.
He hates Jungle Cruise, you guys. Nobody hates Jungle Cruise more than this boy.
I don't know if hate's a big word. I just don't love it. I just don't love it. Okay, who rode Jungle Cruise in Magic Kingdom like 3 days ago?
Yeah, but we were with family.
Okay.
You hate Jungle Cruise.
Yeah.
Next time, you guys, we go to Hong Kong Disney, it'll be our first time spending a proper day there, and where we're not like going to catch a flight in the evening.
Which we've always done.
And we're going to make time for other extracurriculars like Tarzan's Treehouse and Jungle Cruise. But yeah, this is our second consecutive visit to Hong Kong Disney where we didn't do any of the Adventureland attractions. So we walked through Adventureland and still enjoyed it, but we didn't do anything. Still more than what we did in Toy Story Land, where we didn't even walk through it this time. But we did go to the Marvel Annex, sort of like, I'm just calling it the Marvel Annex. It's the Avengers Campus satellite base.
Well, yeah, the Stark Expo.
Yeah, the Stark Expo. 2 excellent
Which is one of the 3
rides.
Adventure campuses, technically.
Yeah. Because this was going to be a full Avengers Campus thing, and then due to budget cuts, they kind of scaled it back. But
now it looks like it's back on track.
It's like, yeah. Well, for all the all the Avengers Campus areas have 2 rides. A Shooting Dark ride, and then like a Focal Point e-ticket ride. And you know what I'm going to say? I actually feel like Hong Kong's duo is the best overall of the 2, like objectively.
No.
Because the Spider-Man shooter rides are not that great.
No, but they're technologically much more advanced.
But the Ant-Man Shooting Dark ride
it's very fun, but
best.
Iron Man experience is just a simulator.
I love the Iron Man experience,
okay,
though.
But no, sorry. No.
But attraction quality,
the
attraction quality is really high.
Ugh.
I don't feel like Avengers
Paris
Campus. Avengers Campus in Anaheim does not feel complete.
Maybe not Anaheim, but Paris is perfect.
And I mean, we really like Flight family. Sorry.
Flight Fam. Oh my God.
That's a work tool that I have.
Do not ever do that again.
Flight Force. We really like Flight Force a lot.
I could call us Flight Fam.
And because we are all fam. We're all fam.
No, but I love that ride. Like, I'll be part of the Flight Force Flight Fam.
I feel like if you talk about objective enjoyment and marketability, Hong Kong's 2 rides for their Avengers Campus, I think, are the 2 strongest performers.
Now it's time for me to speak.
Are you sure? I don't know.
So maybe the rides are good. Okay, even if I gave you a benefit of the doubt, Stark Expo is like barely a fucking abandoned alleyway. Like, it is so lame in there. No.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that the areas, especially in Paris. I'm just talking about the ride rosters. It's ironic.
Training center.
It's ironic to me that even though Hong Kong Disney didn't get a full Avengers Campus, the duo of rides, like, together,
I still disagree.
I feel like are the strongest duo.
But that's
of
because
rides.
I'm a roller coaster person. I think that I like the queue for Avengers Assembled Flight Force. I like a good, powerful launch roller coaster. And I think that, yes, Ant-Man may be better than Spider-Man because of what I preference. But I just think that overall, I still think the lineup in Paris is stronger. But that's okay. We can agree to disagree.
Well, I prefer personally Paris's right.
Yeah, I even think objectively, I think Paris is. It's just like it's a way more polished.
Nobody
experience.
objectively likes Avengers Assemble Flight Force. Literally, everyone hates that ride, except for us. Like,
okay, let's move on. So let's talk about the Iron Man experience. For those that don't know.
The Iron Man experience has the best queue of any of these Marvel rides. The queue for that ride is awesome.
It doesn't even have a pre-show.
I mean, the queue is amazing. I don't need a pre-show.
You know what? I love this for you.
The queue is wonderful.
I just don't agree.
There's so many things to look at. It's like what Epcot wishes it was still doing. It's like it almost feels a little bit like that Xandar Expo thing that they've got for Cosmic Rewind. Even though Cosmic Rewind, though it's Marvel, Avengers, and it's Disney, it like doesn't even exist in the Avengers Campus timeline. What's happening with the Guardians of the Galaxy that's canon in the timeline is Mission Breakout, which is a great ride, but doesn't actually feel like it's part of Avengers Campus.
But for those that don't know, let's talk about what is Iron Man the experience.
So the Iron Man experience it uses the Star Tours ride system. They have 5 theaters, which is like several more theaters than they need.
We're only running one. We were there.
Yeah, they were using one simulator.
Oh my god, it's so sad, actually.
And I mean, the queue is so elaborate and cool. It feels like an attraction in and of itself. It's like a walkthrough attraction. You have such a boner for walkthrough attractions. I feel like you should appreciate
I feel like you're overselling this
the queue for this ride more. You should. You should like this more than you do.
Look at you being all offended over here.
And the Iron Man ride, I'll admit that I liked it better the first time we rode it. Because the first time I rode it was also the first time you rode it. Because it was under construction on my first Hong Kong visit.
It was brand new when we first went.
And I think it's hilarious. I think it's neat that it takes place in Hong Kong. The fact that you're in the theme park is canon. Like, they can't clone this ride because A, the government won't let you, and B, it only makes sense in Hong Kong. The entire attraction takes place in downtown Hong Kong.
Sort of.
And theme park. Like a fictionalized version that has like a Stark Tower.
I mean, just like the Spider-Man rides and just like Avengers Assemble, I mean, just like anything really that is themed to any of the Avenger campuses, it takes place in the particular Avenger campus that you're at. Yeah. Which it's a complete Hong Kong theme.
Yeah. Except that, like, somehow Disneyland and Disneyland Paris get away with, like, the Spider-Man rides being the same ride, taking place in
I've
two
always
different
disagreed
places.
With that. Because I've always disagreed that Tavan collection should not be seen in the Paris one. But this is a whole different conversation.
And with the Tavan collection, like, the story of that whole thing is, like, the building, like, can teleport. Like,
I mean, that is such a fucking stretch.
It has such an elaborate, like, bending over backwards. That's why it doesn't feel like it's part of Avengers Campus, because the building can, like, move and stuff. Like, they really reached to make it make sense in its own canon.
You just left that out altogether. But anyway.
It's like, Avengers Assemble doesn't necessarily feel like a ride that could happen only in that area.
Except for the
or in that park.
Says that is
because the only reason it's like, region specific is because Tony Stark speaks French and only French. And then, like, obviously Mission Breakout could happen anywhere because that's, like, literally the canon of the ride. But the Iron Man experience at Hong Kong Disney is, like, it is an attraction that could only take place in Hong Kong. It's very well done. It's very entertaining. The dialogue is really funny. The writing on it is hilarious. It has a great script. I remember writing it and thinking, like, wow, I like this better than Flight of Passage. I think I might still like it better than Flight of Passage. Even though Flight of Passage is more spectacular. But, like, we wrote both of those for the first time relatively close together.
I will say of all the Disney rides, this one is the most dedicated to its home location. Like, it really is a Hong Kong exclusive, a Hong Kong themed, Hong Kong.
I was just so impressed by
agree.
that.
But I actually would like to take the time now to jump over to the ride next door.
Ant-Man.
And I want to talk, this is our first time riding Ant-Man and the Wasp, micro...
Huge.
What's it called? Nano...
I don't know.
Nano Blast?
It's just...
Maybe that's a cute name.
Nano. You just invented that.
That's
okay.
Ant-Man and the Wasp, Nano Blast. And that is a really cute name for the ride. That's probably not actually the name.
Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantum. No, that's the movie.
Oh,
Ant-Man Ride, Hong Kong, Disneyland.
Okay, but now...
Oh, it is Nano Battle. You were close.
I was close.
You were really close.
Okay.
We're going to have so much fun listening back
Imagineering,
to this episode.
hire
this
me.
Is so funny.
They couldn't hear me. Imagineering, hire me. Anyway, so the Ant-Man and the Wasp is a reskin of the previous Buzz Lightyear shooter. And if I'm telling you that it has kind of a Tron vibe, I mean that, like, sincerely, in a good way. It kind of has a Tron aesthetic when it comes to all the lighting. But, oh my god, they elevated this classic shooter and made it feel like a modern new attraction. I mean, the technology on it is great. The accuracy of the shooting is like the one in Shanghai. I feel like they must have upgraded that.
Rescue,
and then, like, the story makes sense. Like, now you're like a little wasp, or like a little ant, I guess, and you're helping Ant-Man and the Wasp.
You shrink down part of the way.
Helping...
Become a tiny version.
Dismantle a machine from the inside because you're a little ant now. And, I thought it was a really spectacular ride. It was actually... I cannot wait to ride it again.
It's
one of my favorite rides
there. Tiana's Bayou Adventure.
Oh my god, no.
Because in two ways. One... the reskin was so much better than I expected.
It was a glow up.
And so much more... Like, I expected... Maybe this was just my jadedness, but for a Hong Kong Disney reskin of a ride, I kind of just expected less. But what they actually... what I should say is I was expecting Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin at Magic Kingdom, because that is a reskinned ride that's been there since, like, the 70s. And I was just expecting less, and what we got was, like, a brand new ride that didn't even feel like it resembled the Buzz Lightyear version of itself. And both of these rides, you become miniature in the second third of the ride, and then the last third you turn back to normal.
True?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. Yeah. Okay, yeah, you had a point there.
See?
So the order of operations in our show notes is not correct, so I'm going to be skipping the Royal Banquet Hall to after Space Mountain, because Space Mountain's in the same area.
What? No, I didn't even... I know we ate at the Royal Banquet Hall after Space Mountain.
This is copied directly from your email. Or your text, whatever you sent me.
Fake news.
Because
we went straight to Space Mountain after Ant-Man and Wasp.
I straight copied this literally from your message you sent me in Messenger. Like, I had Messenger open on the computer. Anywho, this is not to the audience to be heard. We rode Space Mountain, which is a copy of the one at Anaheim, except for this one feels completely different because it's not sunk in the ground.
This is permanent Hyperspace Mountain. It's kind of awkward
because, like, you walk into the building and you're in the station right away. Like,
it's so...
literally... Right there.
It's
like,
so unceremonious.
Like a fairground ride.
It's almost like you could just, like, pick it up and drop it anywhere you wanted.
No thematic, like, world building. No, like, building up to the ride.
Yeah.
It's switchbacks. Boom.
You
open the door.
Right off the midway
you're in the
into
station.
the station. And this ride suffers from the same syndrome. Not as bad. But it suffers from the same issues that Disneyland Paris is suffering right now with, like, the juxtaposition of themes.
I don't know if anyone cares that much at this one.
Well, that's what I mean. Paris feels much worse because, unlike Hong Kong, which, like, their Tomorrowland never really had, like,
blank canvas,
a purpose or a theme.
Yeah.
It was just, like, a very vague aesthetic of, like, iridescent colors and sheet metal.
In fact, I think what you're going to say, I'm going to add to it before you say it, if you don't mind, is that this Space Mountain is such a blank canvas because it has a gray outer wall, the white dome, and then because they added a TIE fighter inside, an X-Wing, inside they took part of the switchbacks out they never needed, and they put an X-Wing there, and then they just built a really nice entrance sign for Hyperspace because it's a permanent installation. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, there's nothing about it that doesn't feel like it's a Star Wars ride.
The only thing is the station.
Yeah, but even then, like the whole taking the from Disney Quest Chicago. It's a giant ceiling piece that was like a bunch of planets and was like
a big laser mobile looking
thing.
And
so, but you know what, in a way I feel like, well, it's so nondescript. It's not like Space Mountain specific. It could be, might as well be a Star Wars.
Yeah, I guess what you're saying is like, the aesthetic that was there left over in the station is so ambiguous that you could just easily retcon it into the Star Wars
I feel like this was by far the easiest to do.
Also, the gift shop was really nice. Yeah. And like very
explicit. They had a cute amount. Oh my god, they had the cutest merch.
Yeah.
They had the best Star Wars merch.
a lot of Star Wars stuff.
Maybe I'll buy some stuff next time and we can wear it on the Paris one.
We'll do that. I would say that this...
It kind of works
Hyperspace works better. And it's, I guess, in its own way, it works better because, A, there's some practical theming in the queue, like the nice X-Wing thing. And B, it's just there's less at stake.
I agree.
So it works. It works really well. But
I will say, I have to make a comment about these trains, and that is the fact that these particular trains, they have a complete hard plastic front. So this is the exact same ride as Anaheim's, and the vehicles in Anaheim have the handlebar, so you can hold on to in front of the vehicle, like on the nose. But in this particular installation, that is completely, instead of being like a space between the top of the train and then the handlebars, it is completely covered in fiberglass. And I'm going to tell you, your knees are like smashed against that, because my knees are already kind of smashed against like the top of the train on the Anaheim installation, and I will only ride this in the front row. It's like a personal preference thing. But it really makes riding this one kind of more uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it's also ugly. But overall, though, I mean, it's a great ride. But my problem is with this installation, and Anaheim, because they do it seasonally for the season of the Force, at least for Anaheim, it's always in good shape. Like, I've always experienced Hyperspace Mountain there in good shape. Because it's permanent in Hong Kong, the biggest downside is that I feel like some of the effects weren't working. Some of the projectors were big burned out. It was giving University of Singapore Transformers. Like, they got to replace some of those projectors because it just really wasn't working as well as it should have effect wise for me. But yeah, like Alex mentioned earlier, it's kind of blank canvas. But I think it's a good ride. I think it fits well, and I don't hate it.
There was a rumor. I don't know how true this is now, but like at one point in time, when the Avengers expansion for putting the major Avengers ride where Autopia was, there was also rumors that Space Mountain was going to get a Guardians of the Galaxy theme, like a Guardians reskin. I don't know if that's even possible now because all the actors, their contracts are over. So what exactly are you going to do with those actors? You could do something new with Marvel, but the Guardians of the Galaxy are kind of over. Now they could do a theme, and if they could take some of the stuff that they filmed for other Guardians rides and apply it to this, then maybe they could reskin it as a Guardians of the Galaxy reskin of Space Mountain in the same vein of Mission Breakout, and that would work. I just think that the future of this tomorrow, I think eventually there will be no more Tomorrowland. There's just not enough of it that is Tomorrowland. It's down to 2 rides, actually. And because the Ant-Man and Tony Stark thing are in their own corner of Tomorrowland.
Well, and I mean, we just watched the D23 predictions, and of course that dark ride, the same dark ride is going to
DCA.
DCA is also rumored to come to Hong Kong, which then I think they're going to take. I hope they're going to take all of Tomorrowland and just gut it and make it all Adventure Campus.
Yeah, they might as well, even though they canceled Avengers Campus. At this point, it's we'll uncancel it. There's no need for there to be a Tomorrowland in this park. Yeah. The only 2 rides that are unified together in any way, shape, or form in this area are the Avengers rides. Yeah. So they might as well just make it all Tomorrowland.
And because Avengers is so... For Shanghai and for Tokyo, Avengers aren't really a thing. Nobody cares in Tokyo. Nobody cares in Shanghai, really. Maybe Spider-Man, because they're getting a Spider-Man coaster. People care. But just generally speaking, there's loose Avengers overlays of the restaurant and stuff, but it isn't Avengers that big of a presence.
Spider-Man is the only one. Is a big character in Shanghai.
So making Hong Kong the big Adventure Campus of the Asian parks, I think the balancing is very nice. You got Hong Kong... You have Anaheim and you got Paris. They're all equidistant. Yeah. It works pretty well.
I agree.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
So now...
And Hong Kong deserves it. I'm glad that people care about the Avengers stuff there.
I think that one fits.
Because
it fits the best
it'll be an opportunity for Hong Kong to continue to have really unique themed attractions that are unique to that region. Even if they end up getting a ride that's identical to California Adventure, it's not going to matter because like those two markets don't overlap.
But yeah, and I will say, I mean, that really is what makes when I think of the park, I just think of unique. I think of like, wow, like that. It's very different, despite feeling so much like Anaheim, because Anaheim also feels very different. I think the real formulaic Disney feel started coming in after Anaheim. You know what I'm saying? Because Anaheim feels, and I feel like in a way that's the same for Hong Kong, except Hong Kong does such a good job separating areas. That is the biggest problem with Disneyland Anaheim, besides obviously the new stuff for Galaxy's Edge. It's all very much like stacked onto each other. You know, you can be like waiting for Pirates and then you see Big Thunder.
Yeah.
You know, or like your like Splash is right there. Like everything is right there. Like you can see it all in one spot. And in Hong Kong, and I must give them credit for that, even maybe more so than Paris. Maybe not. But it's all very separated, which is nice. Lunch, we went to Royal Banquet Hall. Was it lunch, dinner? It was kind of both.
Yeah.
It
was meal
It was
time.
not bad. I mean, I think we all had the pasta.
We all had
like
vegetarian
a veggie
pasta, and it was quite good.
Because Caitlin and I are both veggie, and then like you don't eat red meat, so like there wasn't many options left. It was good. It was cute. I think the portions were great for the price, which is nice because it's not always a guarantee. And if we're going to talk about food at Castle Parks, Magic Kingdom's food sucks absolute everything. It's so terrible.
Horrible.
Absolutely terrible.
We had
Pecos Bill
the other day.
Oh my god, terrible.
Burn it down.
Magic Kingdom food really is trash.
There's just certain things in Magic Kingdom that can only be cleansed with fire.
Wow, that's arsenic.
Burn it. Arsenic. Arsonist.
Arsonist.
Arsenic is also bad. It's poison.
Maybe arsenic is not the worst thing could have the biggest bills. Anyway, so then we went to Small World after that, which Small World.
We were still with the baby the whole time.
Oh yeah, Baby rode.
Baby knew how to hang, and
that's
like
the third ride.
And
Baby
Caitlin is such a like cool cucumber. Like
it's a cool cucumber.
Cool as a cucumber.
Oh, he's like
cool cucumber. Yeah. This was Baby's first time to Disneyland. Baby is...
The way we refer to Baby reminds me of Schitt's Creek. When they drive over the cat, and then they have to go into the farmhouse, and then, like, this full, like, adult woman, kind of sloppy, is, like, still sleeping, but it's her cat. And so they're like... It doesn't matter. Mario's like, when is Bébé waking up? Anyway, it's the way you said Bébé. It doesn't matter. Anyway.
But the baby was a trooper, and her name is Charlotte. I think it's okay for us to divulge her.
Information.
I'm like, should we keep the baby's identity a secret? But Charlotte rode 3 rides with us. She rode Mystic Manor, Ant-Man and the Wasp, and Small World, and she loved them. So Baby was 9 weeks old, you guys. She's already like almost twice the age that she was when we did all of this.
That's so crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
She's now 200%.
Yeah, she's like 200%. She's like 100% older right now than she was when we rode all of these rides a couple months ago. Yeah.
Because our Hong Kong Disney, like we're running behind that. That's because we're doing 1 episode a week. But yeah, our Hong Kong Disney visit was in May,
and like we're recording this. It's like third week of July.
I think it's exactly 2 months ago. Yeah, exactly 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Not bad. Yeah.
So maybe
for this being episode 8 of the series.
So Charlotte is already
but when this launches, though, it's already going to be like 2 weeks from now.
Yeah. But like when we went in May, Charlotte was 9 weeks old, and it was like her first time doing the metro, and like first time in the stroller, and Caitlin, and they were like pros. They were like, this is a Disney baby. This is a theme park baby.
A Disney
in the
baby.
making. Yeah.
Disney. Anyway, we wrote Small World. I don't really care for Small World as much anymore. This one, I think, is like the middle of the pack.
Sorry it's not Carnival Festival.
Okay, well...
Like, I'm sorry it's not Yoki and Yet.
Anyway, what I was going to say is that in the Small World lexicon, there's good and there's bad. Magic Kingdom is so trash that, like, it will never win.
Burn it.
And the best one is by far, in my opinion, Paris. And that is because it's just the way that it's set up there as being like one giant show building with like using that as giant scenes and backdrops. There's no different rooms. This and Tokyo are kind of the same. I think Tokyo is a little more polished because they added a little more Tokyo.
Yeah,
Tokyo got a
Tokyo's
newer.
It's technically 10 years newer.
So then I feel like my ranking is going to be Paris, Tokyo, Hong Kong, and then Anaheim. Even though it's the OG and I like the small flume, it's too separated. You got all the black rooms in between.
Anaheim has a lot. This is another like Hong Kong Disney Anaheim parallel because Anaheim's Small World got the remodel that features the Disney characters inside the ride at the same time as Hong Kong's was being developed. So Disneyland's reopened from its remodel right around the time that Hong Kong's opened for the first time. This is 2008. And so both of the rides were being touted as being like the new Small World that featured the Disney characters inside the ride. So they do have a lot of, even though Disneyland's is very different, they have a really strong common thread with being the two Small Worlds to feature the Disney characters. What always stands out to me for the Hong Kong one, it has a great approach, it has a cool station, I think.
My favorite part is just the ice cream
at the end. The ice cream is really good. I like the Asia part. I like Hong Kong. It's the only one.
Fair. The only one that really differentiates Asian cultures.
This is the only one
that's just like the Paris one differentiates between European cultures.
This is really the only one that differentiates between China, like Chinese cultures. Like they have, like Hong Kong has its own scene.
Yeah, it's cute.
It's different from like mainland, which I love. But yeah, the ice cream is probably.
We had ice cream, which is cute. I didn't think the quality was as good as last time, but maybe I'm just ice cream snob.
Maybe you're just like a
maybe
snob.
I'm just like an ice cream snob.
I'm sorry, it's not like Efteling ice cream or something. I don't know.
Well, okay, good one.
I hope it's good enough for you.
And last but not least, I want to round up with this overall vibe of the park. So the Small World fan _cat on Instagram told us that Hong Kong Disney is way better than Shanghai Disneyland.
Wow.
I'm sorry, baby, but I do not agree with that. No, that is not. So I will say that Hong Kong Disney has, but they're all very distinct. I think the only parks where I feel like it feels similar is in a way is I feel like Magic Kingdom and Tokyo Disney are the two where I'm like, oh, you guys are like annoyingly similar.
Watch, we're going to go to Tokyo Disney in September and be like, wow, this feels really different than Magic Kingdom.
But I think Hong Kong Disney really, especially because of Grizzly Gulch, and Frozen Now, and of course Manor. Mystic Manor, and even the Adventure Campus and Tomorrowland stuff. Yeah. And the castle, like it really has like a really distinct presence now. But for me, it just lacks the atmosphere. Maybe it's the lack of crowd. Maybe it's the mix of really stuffy, old feeling Disney vibe, and then like the really polished, new, unique stuff, but it doesn't blend to me. Like it doesn't. I feel like when you're one part of the park, it doesn't feel the same as the other part of the park. It's not a cohesive park at all.
Hong Kong Disney's overall quality has gone up, and like everything that's being added is increasing in quality. But then there's just these gaps in there's quality gaps.
And like I said,
Fantasyland, Tomorrowland, Main Street USA. And Small World, the Small World Plaza do not feel like they're as high quality as everything else that has been added since.
Yeah, but I think that what that really means is there's a stark contrast to me.
Yeah,
and the castle being renewed helps blend it a little bit because the castle feels like all the new areas.
Yeah,
and it's in the old area.
It's just not as cohesive,
but it doesn't feel cohesive. And I feel like in a way, Shanghai Disney is so obviously because it's a brand new park.
Everything's new.
Disneyland Paris hasn't really been changed much from its original, so like it feels very much cohesive. And that is, I guess, the blessing and the curse of adding all this new stuff to Hong Kong is that it really doesn't feel cohesive anymore. And even the park feels lopsided. I feel like all the good shit's on the left side of the park. Yeah. You walk in, I think like there's not much on the right side. That's not stuff.
Hong Kong Disneyland, like the roadmap is easy and obvious. Tomorrowland is obviously next on the chopping block. Once that's all finished, then it's going to be everything right in the center of the park, like Main Street, the hub, Fantasyland, and that includes.
And now,
Small World.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like what I love so much about both Shanghai and about Paris is that there's walkthroughs which are really big to me, but I also feel like stuff is room to breathe and really.
Yeah, there's
room to breathe. I don't necessarily feel that, despite it feeling like nothing is bleeding in Hong Kong, which is a compliment. I don't necessarily feel like there's room to breathe. It's very tight.
Only the outer loop, like the Grizzly Gulch, Mystic Manor side of the park has that kind of large scopeness.
But even then, like you have that one launch. You have the launch right on Grizzly. You can see it, but not even you said one step. You can stand at the point where you can see the launch and Mystic Manor at the same time because they're so close together. I mean,
that's true.
The stroller parking is practically on top of the launch. Yeah.
There isn't because I think that just all goes back to like Shanghai Disney. I just love the bigness, the presence of it, the scope of it. And the distance can feel like a lot. It can be exhausting, but like it also everything just feels big and roomy and has this like presence. And like Hong Kong Disney will never feel that way.
And another reason it doesn't feel that way is because it has the mountains around it. And everything, no matter the first perspective, no matter what you do, if you are surrounded by mountains, you're in the mountains. Everything is dwarfed. Yeah, maybe that's a problem. And you have the one level of everything. It's like one level this, one level that. Nothing is two level.
Everything, they just have to be very conservative with their space. Like, they have to be very particular with how things are spaced out. It almost has like a Phantasialand sort of feel of like...
Except Phantasialand really uses multi-levels. They don't do it at all.
Yeah.
At all at Hong
Yeah,
Kong.
everything is
same
flat
floor.
in Hong Kong.
It's strangely flat for a park in Hong Kong.
Yeah. That's true. Well, it's because it's reclaimed land.
It is reclaimed land.
It's the only flat place in Hong Kong because it's
Disney,
like not even natural.
But all things considered, we had a great time. We look forward to going back. By the time you hear this, we're a month from going back already.
Yeah.
Always a good time, and it is really unique. In a way, it kind of lives up to. I think the first time we went to Hong Kong Disney, the first thing I said is like, "Wow, is this?" I feel like I'm at Disneyland when it opened. Like it just feels small. It doesn't.
Relaxed.
It feels relaxed. It feels small. It feels very classic. Now it's something I don't appreciate as much anymore. I will say,
man, you go to Hong Kong Disney, it'll be the most stress-free Disney day of your life.
It's so quiet there. Oh my god.
It is the most relaxing, good for your blood pressure kind of Disney experience there is.
That's true.
And you don't have to spend a ton of money to do that. Anyone can have a stress-free day at Disney if you've got deep pockets. Hong Kong Disney, you just got to show up.
Yeah,
and you're going to have a stress-free day.
I think I'll go merchandise there.
Great merch. Yeah.
And so with that, we're at exactly an hour. We're going to round it off. We appreciate you listening to this particular episode. Next up, we've got we're going to talk about a power trio in Taiwan. We are hopefully going to be talking together about Universal Studios Singapore.
Yeah.
Because Alex is hopefully coming with me. By the time this episode comes out, or what already happened or not. But if not, there's going to be an episode on there because, if anything, we'll do one where I, kind of talk about it with you.
Yeah, Sean went to Universal Singapore in the spring, and now I'm going to try to... He's going back again for work, and I'm going to try to come with if the travel, if the airplane gods allow it.
Yeah, podcasting is kind of like time travel.
And if not,
by the time this is out...
I'll get there eventually.
So yeah, we're doing that.
If that trip doesn't happen, I will interview Sean on his experience.
Yeah, and so, there's lots of episodes coming up, so always make sure that you are subscribed. Leave us a good review, preferably, and help us grow. That is the biggest thing. We want to grow. We're really going to shift Coast to King's focus more towards this format. So this being the new format, if you've been with us for many, many years, which many of you guys have, share the love, share the podcast. We really appreciate that. And we will catch you guys on yet another episode next week. Bye.
Bye.